Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. How's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully you guys are having a great day. Having a great Monday. I knew it was Monday. I don't know why I was second guessing myself. Hopefully you guys are having a great Monday and you're ready to come and hang out with me tonight. That's what I was wondering, baby girl, the other night. I was wondering where Tom's been myself. Actually, that's so funny. That's like the first comment I saw. I was like, I actually was thinking just the same thing not too long ago. Maybe he wasn't into the other case that we were covering with Austin. So maybe he'll be in tonight with this case. But welcome in. Do you guys, is it okay if you just give me like 1 second? I just need to grab some Advil. Hold on 1 second. So I'm so sorry, guys. I meant to do this before I came on. Hold on 1 second. You can even count to 5. I hope nobody counted to 5 because that was like, that would have been a mess. That was more like 10 seconds maybe. But I've got like the gigantic size bottle of Advil that you can get at Sam's Club. But I have that headache a little bit. It's nothing that like a little Advil won't take it. It'll take it away. But yeah, I've got like the industrial size bottle. But if you get headaches like me, you know how it is. I get migraines and I've just been dealing with it. I've been getting Botox. It helps right up until I'm about to get my Botox again. And I'm about to get it in a couple of days. So I'll get a little bit of headaches here and there. So I'm sorry. But thanks for waiting on me. My name is Tanya. If you are new to the channel and you're like, I'm waiting on this person, I don't know why, but I am. My name's Tanya, and I promise it'll be worth the wait. I hope it is anyway. So there are some new documents that are coming out of Pullman, I guess. They're funky. So they are a lot of FOIA requests is what I'm seeing. And so I'm going to have to go through each document, but they're not coming up very fast. Like, you know, the ones, sorry, over in Latah, like they would just, you click on it, it would come right up. These ones aren't coming up as fast. So I think it's because everyone's trying to access them. So give me till it's like tomorrow and I'll try to figure it out and we'll go over those documents. But we do have a document that came out of Latah Valley, not even Latah, Boise, out of Ada County. So we'll go over that one. And we've already went over all the ones from Latah County. And then we'll watch I didn't know. I've been like looking on the Idaho Killings podcast for forever, for like the last months and months and months. And I was trying to like get figure out when they were going to put their next episode on there, because we watched like all of them. And I was like, man, this was a really, really, really good podcast. Like the Idaho Massacre one was okay. But this one I thought was actually like brought us more information. It was from like ABC or NBC, one of those two. I think it's ABC. So we're going to watch the last 2 episodes of that tonight. We're just going to do it all tonight. And there's the dogs. So they'll probably want in here in a minute too. Hey, Willows. No, it's okay. Thank you. No, you're fine. You helped me out. That does help me. Thank you so much, Willows. Hey, Catherine. Hey, Ashley. Hello again. Hello, everybody again. If you saw me earlier today on our live, we did have a live over Austin Drummond. They thought, well, they think they have him cornered, but it's just, I guess, a matter of them finding him. So we're just waiting on the word. Hey, Catherine. Welcome in, everybody. It's good to see you guys. Ladybug's in here. Baby girl's in here. Courtney's in here. Pete's here. It's good to see everybody. If you guys don't mind, will you take a second and hit the like button? Hey, Mary Beth. How you doing, girl? Hey, Cherie. Hopefully you're doing good. I'm just trying to read the chats like you. Hey, Tracy. Did you go to the doctor for that, Ashley? Like when you were like about freaking swallowed up by the river? I don't know. What do you say when you go in there? Hey guys, I almost drowned out there. Hey, Mary Jane. I like that name, Mary Jane Bianco. Hey, Matcha Chi, where you been? I feel like I haven't seen you in a couple days. Maybe it's just been a couple lives. I know. I was wondering when they're going to catch him. I was like, I was getting on Twitter and then I was getting on like YouTube, or not YouTube, well, YouTube also, and Facebook. I was like kind of searching around as I was like cleaning up and stuff and just getting ready for, the rest of the day. And I didn't see anything. Look at that, 29 months. I'm a fossil here. At this point, I'm a fossil here. I love that. I think that's probably you were one of the top ones. Bill Long, if he's still a member, which he probably is. Bill Long has been a member for just as long, or maybe a couple months longer. But it's crazy because Bill will never come in chat, or he might be listening or something, but he'll come in out of nowhere and just drop like memberships and be like, hello and goodbye. Like, oh, hi, bye, Bill. Like he just is, that's Bill. But he's been a member forever. I would be really surprised if he wasn't. Hey, Jog. It's been a while since I've actually went like through there, Oh, it didn't turn out to be him? Like he didn't turn out to be like in that area at all? Hey, Sparkly Starfish. That's a cute name. Hey, Tiffany. Oh, you're welcome. I figured, we'll cover this tonight because we didn't get to cover these two, and this is easy for all of us. Hey, DM. Hey, Wolf. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow too, so I figured it'd be an easier live for all of us to do. Them doctors, they're getting me 3 times in 1 week. How dare I do that to myself? Look at that, 27 months, Catherine. Time well spent meeting amazing people. We have had a lot of amazing people on this channel. Hey, Kathy. Well, it's good to see everybody. You have a mild concussion and 2 fractured ribs. Oh, no. I'm so sorry that you... Oh, I'm so sorry. Ooh, I know what that's like. The fractured ribs. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, that's probably like... I don't know. I broke my ribs, actually. I broke 3 of my ribs, and it was the worst pain I ever felt in my life. And I've lost my eye. So I feel so bad for you. Oh, if it hurts really bad, I know this is weird. Hey, Wicked. Put like just a little bit of pressure on it. It helped me. Now don't put too much to where you break it and you puncture your lung or something crazy. But like I had a teddy bear and I would just kind of stuff it under my arm and just hold it there and kind of lay on it at night. It helped. Yeah, be really careful breathing and all that. You went to the hospital and everything, Ashley, I hope. And Dale's okay. You could take care of Dale and everything. He's so small. You could just give him a little litter box. Oh, thanks, Crystal. You're so sweet. Yeah, me too, Ladybug. We would be, I'd be texting. We'd be wondering where she was. If this couple, you'd miss chat maybe 1 or 2 times before. I'd be like, "Where's Ashley?" Jack Daniels could help. That could help too. You could cuddle with that, or you could drink it. Either or. I am glad that you're okay. That's terrible. I mean, you've had enough water. It's just hell with water the last couple of years that you shouldn't have to deal with anything like that any longer. You just drive the bus and you tell them to get their own asses into the lake. They're kayaking and get themselves in there. Dr. Delbert is taking care of me. Oh, that's cute. Oh, speaking of which, I forgot to take my vitamins tonight. Yeah, Jog. I mean, it's the worst pain. I'm just, woo. Yeah. When I broke mine, when I woke up and realized that they were broken, I was like, oh, geez. And then I punctured a lung, collapsed it. And then I, went back under the knife for a while. So it was crazy. I mean, but yeah, so that's nothing to mess with. Let us know if you've ever broken a bone in the chat tonight. That'll be the question of the night. Have you ever broken a bone? And if you have, which one? I've broken a lot. So I was looking just because I was just looking for different documents, and which is crazy because I put in a FOIA for Pullman, so I should have got the documents for the the newest documents that are coming out. And I checked my email today and I didn't see any emails back. So I'm gonna check again tomorrow and see if I missed it. See if maybe I put it in wrong. Because if you do something like that, they'll usually mail email you or something to be like, you're in the wrong department. You need to, see someone else. But I know I did it right. So I'm not sure why they didn't send them to me. But maybe they're still sending them out because there was a lot of FOIAs. Like I said, I was clicking on them. I'm like, this has nothing to do with Bryan Kohberger. It wasn't even like, I want to FOIA this for Bryan Kohberger. At first, it wasn't even like anything like that. It just looked like traffic stops or something for other people. It was really confusing. So I'm going to go through it a little bit tomorrow to see what's going on. But for tonight, we'll read this document. So this is probably the last document that we will ever read for Bryan Kohberger. That's present. You know what I mean? That's going on right now. The rest of them are going to be, documents from, before his arrest or after his arrest, but not like right now. This is the judgment of conviction order. So we'll read through it. We'll see what it has to say. I see my glasses right here. So this is from the courts, and it's basically just what happened. So it's the judgment of conviction and commitment in the state of Idaho versus Bryan C. Kohberger. And we'll call him that since at this point. Well, no, I mean, actually, he's M8 165214. I really don't know how these get dirty. I feel like somebody comes in here at night and puts their fingers on them on purpose. Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay. So it says on July 23rd, 2025, William Thompson, Ashley Jennings, Joshua Hewitt, Jeffrey Nye, and Madison Allen. And I don't remember ever hearing Madison Allen. I guess I missed that. I really don't. But counsel for the state of Idaho and defendant Bryan C. Kohberger with his counsel, Ann Taylor, Elisa Masseth, Jay Logston, and Becca Barlow, appeared before this court of sentencing. Defendant was duly informed of the indictment returned against him for the crimes of count 1, burglary, felony, IC 18-1401 through 1403. Count 2, murder in the first degree felony, 18-4001, 4002, 4003, 4004. Count 3, murder in the first degree felony, 18-4001, 4002, 4003, 4004. Count 4, murder in the first degree felony, 18-4001, 4002, 4003, 4004. And count 5, murder in the first degree felony, 18-4001, 4002, 4003, 4004. Each crime committed on or about November 13th, 2022, and his pleas of guilty to counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on July 2nd, 2025. Defendant waived his right to a pre-sentence investigation report. Defendant and his counsel were then asked if they had any legal cause or reason to offer why judgment and sentence should not be pronounced against defendant, and if defendant or his counsel wished to offer any evidence or to make a statement on behalf of defendant or to present any information to this court in mitigation of punishment, and this court having accepted such statements and having found no legal cause or reason why judgment and sentence should not be pronounced against defendant at this time, does render its judgment of conviction as follows. It is hereby ordered, adjudged, is that, I don't know, and it is decreased that defendant is guilty of the crimes of count 1, burglary, felony. I'm not going to go through all the numbers again, but murder 2, or count 2, murder in the first degree felony. Count 3, murder in the first degree felony. Count 4, murder in the first degree felony. And count 5, murder in the first degree felony. And that he be sentenced pursuant to the uniform sentence law of the state of Idaho. And that gives the code, and it says as follows. Count 1, burglary felony. Defendant is sentenced to the custody of the state of Idaho Board of Correction for a fixed term of 10 years in prison, with such sentence to commence immediately. Said sentence shall run consecutively to the sentences imposed on counts 2 through 5. And then 2 through 5 are all going to be the same. I believe they should all read the same. Defendant, so count 2, murder in the first degree felony. Defendant is sentenced to the custody of the state of Idaho Board of Correction for a fixed life term in prison without the possibility of parole. Without the possibility of parole. And with such sentence to commence immediately. Said sentence shall run consecutively to the sentences imposed on counts 1, 3, 4, and 5. Just making sure that these are all the same. Yeah. So then it says, so those are all, count. I can go through them, but it'll be where were we? Count 1 or count 2, count 3, count 4, and count 5 are all going to read the same. The one I just read to you. So, pursuant to IC 18-309, defendant shall be given credit for the time already served upon the charges specified herein. I thought he said he wasn't getting those. I could have sworn on everything in this case that he said that he was not getting those days counted towards his sentence, but maybe I dreamt that. But I guess he is getting 937 days as of July 23rd. Wow. Just think if it's 937 days, it took 6 weeks to get him. We covered this case for a long time. It is further ordered that as to each count, defendant shall pay the following. Oh, and I want to say something about paying stuff too. So don't let me forget. County Justice Fund and current expense surcharge fee in the amount of $10. Okay. Court cost and fees in the amount of $17.50. Court cost and fees, that's all it costed for him for what? A piece of paper? What is $17? I mean, these are bad. A court technology fee of the amount of $10. Crime victims compensation fee in the amount of $75. Keep your damn $75, I'd say. Emergency surcharge fee of the amount of $100. Peace officer and detention Peace officer and detention officer disability fund fee in the amount of $3. I don't even know what that is. Peace officer training fees in the amount of $15. And victim notification. Oh, you didn't notify no victim of anything in this case. In the amount of $15 to be paid through the clerk of courts. Give me my damn. This is a joke. This is a damn. I ain't never seen no court costs like this before, and I mean, I'm talking about for like a misdemeanor case. I mean, $10. What is it? $15 for the seatbelt ticket, or was it $10 that he got? I can't remember. Maybe it was $10, but still, $10 is the same price, pretty much. So we got 10, and then we've got $17.50. I should know that, but well, shoot, if I can type it in. I hate having nails sometimes. They're not even that long. $75. And then we've got the $100 surcharge. The $3 fee. Did I miss one? 15 and then 15. So 30. I thought there was 2 10s. There is 2 10s. So there's another one right here. So I missed one of the 10s. $245.50. That's, I mean, that's what Ann was getting per hour. Like, I mean, okay. Must be paid through the clerk of courts. Okay, so that's, okay. So I've been hearing Nancy Grace included. Love you, Nancy. She's like right there because I have to have her like up now. But I heard her saying that, well, BK can write a book about this and make money off of this and blah, 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 that, like those things. Well, of course I, closed that because I was going to read that another time. But no, there is actually a law that, in Idaho, that it's not the Son of Sam law. So it's not that same law that prevents people from writing books, but it does prevent them from, he can write the book, but he can't, all of the money that he would collect from that book would actually be taken by the courts, and it would be put into a victims fund, like impact fund, and it would be given to like the victims of the case. Is what when I was reading up on it, that's what I was taking it as. So no, they don't have necessarily that Son of Sam law. They do have a law in place that prohibits them from trying to be sneaky, you know. Here's where I searched it. So let's see what it says. It says, in Idaho, convicted killers are generally prohibited from directly profiting from the commercial exploitation of their crimes. It says, here's the breakdown. So Idaho statute, the law requires that any proceeds from a contract related to the depiction of a crime, like a book, movie, or interview, be placed in an escrow account for the benefit of the victims. Victims or their families then have the right to claim these funds through civil lawsuits within a 5-year window. And that's why Steve Gonzalez got the lawyer and filed the paperwork he needed to. It says, no Son of Sam law, while similar to Son of Sam laws in other states, Idaho law has a different approach. Notably, some Son of Sam laws have faced legal challenges and have been struck down on First Amendment grounds for being too broad. So, in essence, while a convicted killer might attempt to profit from their crimes by selling their story in Idaho, the law aims to ensure that victims or their families receive the proceeds through an escrow account. So to me, that's nice, you know? Yeah, Betsy, don't be listening to Nancy sometimes. I love her. I love you, Nance. Every time I look over there, I just laugh. But I feel like she's like looking down on me. But no, like sometimes she gets it wrong. So, I mean, she does get it wrong, and I'll be there to correct her. But I didn't play this episode, and that's kind of why, because there was a few things that she said that I was like, what? Like, she can have her robot person talk all she wants. It doesn't make it factual. So like the robot person said, and she said that Dylan couldn't tell, they couldn't identify that it was Kaylee. They wouldn't have asked Dylan to identify Kaylee. They would have never asked that poor girl. They would have never asked her to go up those stairs and been like, can you tell me if this is Kaylee? Or if when they saw her and she was unrecognizable, they would have never put a victim through that. They just wouldn't. I mean, I'm sorry, Nancy. Nancy Grace said that. So I'm like, Nancy, no, that's wrong. And you could tell the people on our panel weren't like really going with that. They were kind of like, you know what I mean? Like Joseph Scott, right? Joseph Scott Morgan. He was just kind of like, and then he would go on, like, you know what I mean? Like she would say something like, I was like, I don't think that's true. I only got halfway through the episode, so I didn't get through the whole thing. The stab wounds were even off. I think what she said, what the amount was. There was just a couple, there were some things, and I was just like, dang girl, that's not right. And the robot person, yeah, Tiffany, see, so, and then the robot person said it like later on, because she said it, and then the robot person said, I forget his name. He's actually a guy, like a person. We thought he was really a robot one time, because he read out the whole affidavit. I think it was for maybe Delphi or something. It was like mind numbing to hear him do it. But yeah, I love Nancy, but I'm going to have to fight her on that. I'm going to have to fight her on some things. Because we've read through all the documents, and I know if I saw that somewhere or read that, or we heard that, or we knew that, that would be like a huge thing for like against the police department. You know, like they don't have anybody do that kind of stuff anymore. They wouldn't even have her parents come in and do that. They would take fingerprints. If she didn't have fingerprints on file, DNA. That's what they would do. They would not even have her next to kin do that. They don't do that. This ain't the 80s anymore, you know? Oh, yeah. Oh, I bet your salad's good. I think he'll probably try to become some sort of, I thought that he would become some sort of artist, Dion. Like, I don't know why. Just, I thought maybe he would try. Okay. So do we read all this? I don't even know. Yeah, no, we didn't. Okay. We were in the middle of it. No, we read all that. We were just, we were trying to see how much he paid. So, okay, now we're down here. Let me see. Where are we at? We went right here. Okay, to pay the court. The parties are not prepared. We're not prepared to stipulate to restitution. The state is directed to notice restitution for hearing if the parties cannot stipulate to an amount within 60 days. What? What are they talking about? Like the victims, like those parties weren't prepared? Because if that's the case, because you guys sprung this on them 2 or 3 days before. It says the parties were not prepared to stipulate to restitution. I don't know. Pursuant to IC 18-112A on each of the counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, defendant is hereby assessed to pay, or in order to pay, a maximum fine of $50,000 for a total of $250,000 payable through the clerk of court. Good luck. Maybe if he writes that book. Maybe if he does that Lifetime movie, you know. Pursuant to IC 19-5307 on each of the counts 2, 3, 4, and 5, defendant is hereby assessed in order to pay an additional fine of $5,000. So that's for the victims, for a total of $20,000. The fine on each shall count or shall operate as a civil judgment against defendant and shall be entered on behalf of the family of the victims named in the indictment. Whoa. They can just say that. No, I would say take your civil judgment and shove it up your ass. I'll do my own civil case against him. Like $5,000 is nothing for losing a child, losing anybody. I mean, they should get that for the burglary. They should get more than that for the burglary. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just crazy. An order is to be submitted to this court by the state. Okay. Well, they better give them some more money. Defendant shall comply with the no contact orders entered by this court at the time of sentencing. Yeah, what was that? Like, he couldn't, like, the next time he can contact them is the year 9,999 or something. Defendant shall submit a DNA sample and right thumbprint impression to authorities within 10 days of this judgment. Defendant shall be reprimanded to the custody of the sheriff of Ada County to be delivered forthwith by him into the custody of the director of the State Board of Correction of the state of Idaho. The clerk shall deliver a copy of this judgment and commitment to the said officer, which shall serve as a commitment of defendant. Pursuant, I bet you they were excited to get rid of him at the jail. Yeah, really, like, I mean, you know, like, it's a weight lifted off of they're all of their shoulders because they don't have to do the vegan diet probably anymore. No one else in the jail probably even cares for a vegan diet. And they don't have to worry about, like, you know, getting him out to do like things just for him because he can't be around other inmates. They're probably just ready to get back to regular scheduled broadcasting. Pursuant to the plea, okay, it says notice of right to appeal. Pursuant to the plea agreement entered by this court, they forgot the R, on July 2nd, 2024, defendant Bryan C. Kohberger waives all rights to appeal any and all issues in this case and waives the right to file a motion pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 35. Nonetheless, should defendant elect to file a notice of appeal, it must be filed within 42 days from the entry of this judgment. Would you guys be like, oh my goodness, he's going to say ineffective assistance of counsel or something? I mean, not like he would win because Ann Taylor, you couldn't get any better than her with this case. She really tried her hardest. But it says you are further notified that you have the right to be represented by an attorney in any appeal, that if you cannot afford to retain an attorney, one may be appointed at public expense, but it won't be Ann Taylor. Further, if you are a needy person, the cost of the appeal may be paid for by the state of Idaho. They should put that actually like on Sarah Boone's, but like if you're a needy person, as in like if you need them to call you all the time, you cannot have one. If you have questions about your appeal rights, you should consult your present lawyer. Well, I don't think, does he really have a prison lawyer now? I mean, is Anne still his lawyer? I don't know. She probably said bye. See ya, you know. Hey, crime kitty. Hey, Reba. Yeah, they already quit. Yeah. Sarah Boone, big mad. I know. She's she's crazy. They should become pen pals. I mean, Sarah Boone does have very nice penmanship. I will say that about her. Don't ever let her get you near a suitcase, though. She does not have no chill around them. Okay, let me get this ready. Okay. So it's actually already there. So this one is going to be about, we actually have 2 to catch up on, so we'll get right into them. And I'll put up overlays since they're podcasts, they're just listening, but I'll put up pictures and stuff for you guys to look at. And then I could probably start deleting them soon out of my little thing, but I don't want to delete them. I don't know. I'm not ready. Like it's like a whole like bunch of pictures. But I'll put up some like of the overlay pictures that we've been using, like, you know, throughout the last couple of years. And then I'll put up some new ones that, you know, just come out. So this is called Waiting Closure. And this is going to be before, I believe. So this is before, I believe, that they do the sentencing. And then they have an episode after. So right before and right after. And this is after they know that he does have a plea deal. So let me share this. I'll play this and then I'll put the overlay up and I'll be in the chat with you guys. I'm gonna let the dogs in. I can hear them.
.com, Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Tomorrow, Bryan Kohberger will be sentenced. The former PhD student has officially pled guilty to the heinous murders of Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, the 4 University of Idaho students killed in an off-campus home in 2022. Now, the thing is, we already know what Kohberger's sentence is likely to be. As part of his plea deal, his defense and the prosecution agreed that he'll serve 4 consecutive life sentences, 1 for each murder. He will not face the death penalty, and he has no ability to appeal. The final decision is still up to the judge, but the sentencing part of tomorrow's proceeding is likely a bit of a formality. Still, this hearing is significant for other reasons. It's the one and only opportunity for the victims' families, friends, and Bryan Kohberger himself to speak in court. I'm ABC News correspondent Kana Whitworth, and this is the King Road killings, awaiting closure. By this point of the summer, I thought I'd be preparing to cover Bryan Kohberger's trial. So did Ada County Judge Stephen Hippler. In fact, he'd ordered that no other trials take place in the Boise courthouse this week so they could get ready to process some 10,000 possible jurors. Instead, the court is now using that time to give the victims' friends and family the chance to speak about their loss and to officially sentence Kohberger. Sentencing marks the end of Idaho's criminal case against Kohberger, but it will also pave the way for another really important piece of this story, lifting the gag order. Last week, Judge Hippler decided to lift the non-dissemination order that kept a lot of information about this case under wraps and banned police and prosecutors, as well as the defense, from disclosing more details about the investigation. For now, all sealed documents are going to remain sealed, at least until after sentencing. But for the first time in nearly 2.5 years, police and prosecutors are allowed to talk more freely about this case if they want to. And some of them are, but they're being very cautious. Moscow Police Chief Anthony Dollinger says they'll release more information and they want to be transparent. But their priority is to the victims' families.
The Moscow Police Department, we've been focused on the victims and bringing justice for the victims. That was our focus, and that was our mission, correct? And the mission was accomplished.
We're also already starting to learn some new details about the investigation and Kohberger himself. We spoke with former Pullman, Washington Police Chief Gary Jenkins. He assisted Moscow PD with their investigation. Chief Jenkins said that before the murders, Kohberger interviewed for an intern position with his department, but he wasn't selected. He didn't come across as very personable. So when Kohberger's name was brought up in connection with the murders, the chief says he was shocked.
The hair in the back of my neck stood up because I knew I was going to hear something really significant. And they said his name, and I guess I got chills because I knew that I had talked with him before, and this person had allegedly committed these just heinous crimes.
In the coming weeks and months, we expect an avalanche of investigative documents to come out on this case. I'll continue to follow this story as it unfolds and keep you posted. But for now, Bryan Kohberger still needs to be formally sentenced. His hearing starts tomorrow, Wednesday, and could continue into Thursday if necessary. This time, instead of wearing a tie and slacks, the convicted murderer, Bryan Kohberger, will arrive at the courtroom wearing handcuffs and a prison jumpsuit. Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan's family and friends will have the chance to give victim impact statements. They'll be able to tell the court and Kohberger directly, if they want to, how these murders have impacted their lives. It could be their only opportunity to address Kohberger face to face. This hearing might also be the last chance for Kohberger to speak to the judge, to address the families in this forum. Then the judge will likely tell Kohberger that he'll spend the rest of his natural life in prison. He could be sent to the Idaho Maximum Security Institution. The prison has a capacity of roughly 550 inmates, most of whom have a history of dangerous behavior or disciplinary violations while incarcerated. To help us better understand Kohberger's plea and what to expect from this upcoming sentencing hearing, I'm here with ABC News legal contributor and practicing defense attorney Bryan Buckmeyer. Bryan, thanks for being with me.
My pleasure, Kina. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And ABC legal analyst and former California homicide prosecutor Matt Murphy. Matt, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
So I want to talk to you guys first about some of the new information that we learned during this change of plea hearing. It was stunning. And it's important to note here that while Bryan Kohberger did change his plea to guilty, he admitted to murdering Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. The prosecution laid out their own narrative of what they think happened that night. And it was sprinkled with new details. And Bryan Kohberger himself has not admitted to these new details, these specifics of what the prosecution laid out. But I do want to go over some of it with you guys. I'll tick through them quickly here, gentlemen, and we'll talk about what Bill Thompson, the lead prosecutor, said. We learned for the first time, according to him, where they believe Bryan Kohberger parked his car. They think he parked his car sort of on this hill above and behind the King Road home. They think he entered the home through a sliding glass door that's on the second floor. And then they believe he killed Madison Mogen first, and then Kaylee Gonzalez. And then reading directly from the prosecutor's narrative here, he says, as the defendant was either coming down the stairs or leaving, he encountered Xana and ended up killing her also with a large knife. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend, was asleep in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well with a large fixed blade knife. In terms of the narrative, Bryan, there's been this swirling question. of who really was the target. And I use the word target because that is the word law enforcement used at the onset of this case. This was targeted. And we still don't know who that was. And Bryan, the lead prosecutor, made a point here that he went in and killed Maddie first.
Yeah. And so I don't think you need a legal degree or a journalism degree to try to figure out if the government or the prosecutor is saying who the initial victim was. Maybe there was a reason for that. Maybe there's a connection to that. We may never know that answer. Now, at sentencing, Bryan Kohberger will have the opportunity to give any amount of words that he might want to give. I think it would be smart of him to address the family. And if he's taking ownership of these actions, he should say something to that effect.
So if you were defending Bryan Kohberger, you would advise him to stand up during sentencing and in some form or fashion address the victims' families directly?
Yes. And the reason why I hesitate on that is because I think as an attorney, I would advise my client to do what he thinks is best. In a case like this, where what he says has no bearing on the ultimate sentence that he gets, he's going to get 4 consecutive life sentences, and I believe the burglary on top of that. It's not that his words are going to sway the judge in one way, shape, or form. He's not really fighting for anything. And so I would just say to him, like, human to human, there are a lot of people out there who want answers, and you might be able to help someone. Maybe this helps them. If this is something you want to do, then I would recommend that you do it. Human to human.
Human to human. That stands out. Look, when Bill Thompson addressed the court during this change of plea, it was essentially his moment to sort of lay out the evidence that they would have presented at trial had they had a trial. And we all know that the linchpin, of course, was the DNA found on the button snap of the knife sheath underneath Maddie Mogen. We know that the murder weapon has never been found. But Matt, there are some people who feel like as Bill Thompson was laying out his evidence here, it wasn't all that convincing, that largely this case was based on circumstantial evidence. However, Bill Thompson did tick through a few things, and I want to go through some of those with you. He talked about how the prosecution has evidence that would suggest there was at least attempts by the defendant to delete or alter his purchase history on Amazon. And they allege that he bought the murder weapon on Amazon using a gift card. They also allege that he searched Amazon for a replacement knife and sheath after leaving the one behind at the crime scene. And then in terms of that DNA match, Matt, we have long known that authorities did a trash pull on Bryan Kohberger's parents' Pennsylvania home, and that the DNA match was made from his dad. And Bill Thompson decided to include the nugget here that it was found on a Q-tip coming from the father, that's how they made the match. Why give those details, Matt?
As far as the details go, and people thinking it's still not overwhelming, number one, he pled guilty. So questions about his guilt are done. Okay, he's admitted it. But having prosecuted a bunch of the cell phone records are very damning. When you have somebody moving towards a crime scene and they turn their phone off, it's almost like footprints on a beach. And on this one, you have DNA on top of that. There is new evidence that came forward at this, and that is that Bryan Kohberger attempted to delete or alter his purchase history, which of course goes back to Amazon and when he bought that K-bar knife. That's new information, and that is what we would call consciousness of guilt. That's a legal term for somebody essentially that is trying to cover their tracks. And I think that in itself can be very powerful evidence. So from my perspective, for the viewers that think this wasn't convincing, this was an overwhelming case from my view. I think the defense did an excellent job with what they had to work with as far as the pretrial motions and things. They have to do that, especially in a capital case. I can't offer any criticism towards what they did. They had a job to do. But at the end of the day, almost all of that was shot down. This evidence was coming in. It was overwhelming. And I think that's one of the main reasons why they sought a plea.
Well, and the defense essentially threw everything at the wall, right? trying to get this delayed, trying to get the death penalty off the table, trying to file motion after motion after motion.
Right. The change of venue, all of that.
Yeah. And it did come up as well, Bryan, that there really wasn't anything found in his car, in Bryan Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra. And we heard Bill Thompson address that as well. He said that nothing of evidentiary value was found in his apartment in Pullman. And then when they searched his car was seized, and he described it as pretty much disassembled internally. It had been cleaned. There was a bucket of cleaner right beside it, sort of taking the time, Bryan, to explain why they think they didn't find anything in the car in the aftermath of what was an incredibly grisly murder scene. So, Bryan, what would be the defense take on that?
So for the defense, I would say it's neither here nor there because your client's already pled guilty. If anything, what you may be doing is trying to fashion some way of highlighting his humanity, which is a very difficult task when it comes down to defending someone who has pled guilty to a very horrendous crime. Because while the defense has been successful at probably the one thing that they were truly seeking to do, and that is removing the death penalty, the next thing to think about is what is his life going to be like when he is in prison for the rest of his life. One thing that stood out to me was I think the prosecutor made a very poignant point in the plea agreement that there was no allegations or no impetus in terms of sexual proclivity towards the victims. I think there was like a paragraph or two that said that. And that stuck out to me because if my client is pleading guilty to a horrendous homicide, I want to make sure that his record and his, we call them like his sentencing papers, are as clean as possible because I don't want him to get the treatment that someone would get for sexual assault or rape. They get treated very differently by other inmates as well as guards. And while murder is, of course, very horrible and is treated a very horrible way, and I don't think Bryan Kohberger is going to have a very nice time in any prison, it gets even worse if there was like a sexual aspect to this, that he was attempting to or thinking of doing something sexually horrendous to these victims and then killed them. And so I think that's the only thing that really stood out to me, seeing what language and seeing what was coming up from the prosecutor to see what his life would be like while incarcerated.
Yeah, the exact quote there from Bill Thompson was, "I will state for the record, there's no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault of any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation."
Yeah, and I would say that was heavily negotiated and dealt with in the background. I can't confirm that. I have no information to that, but just being like a defense attorney, and I would love to hear Matthew's opinion as well. Like you go to bat, you'd be like, if my client's going to plead guilty to this, we're going to make sure it is very clear that the things like this that can be speculated about are on the record and it's no evidence of that. Because if he's going to go to prison, we're going to make sure that this is not a component of why he's in there.
Yeah, so there have been questions about what his interest was in these girls in the first place. There was never an allegation of sexual assault, never a report of that. So, Matt, what do you think?
I totally agree with Bryan on that. I think that's a huge deal, especially when you're looking at 4 consecutive life sentences plus the burglary. However, the person I disagree with on that is Thompson. And the wording on it is very interesting. He says there's no evidence of a sexual component or assault. No evidence of sexual assault is certainly clear. However, to say there's no sexual component is an incredibly broad thing for that prosecutor to say, because to say that it wasn't motivated, component is a super vague word. What is he talking about? Does that include motive? Is there no component of that on the searches on the computers? Is there no paper in his background? To say there's no component at the crime scene, fine, but he didn't clarify what that meant. And so that, I think, is going to invite more speculation than it is going to put to rest.
That's really, really interesting.
Well, I think that's going to happen with all this whole case because of the fact that he didn't have to allocute.
So I want to move on.
I've actually heard someone say, and I haven't checked the channel out yet to see if that's true, but I heard someone say that Bryan Kohberger planned to do this. Like he planned to go to jail, to prison. Excuse me? You couldn't think of a different crime if you just wanted to go to prison to see what prison felt like? You couldn't go for robbery, breaking and entering. It doesn't have to be a violent crime.
To just the plea itself, and kind of just quick answers here. I actually think, Bryan, that I reached out to you early on in this as this was unfolding. There was some people who felt like the timing of this, a month before trial, what happened? Why didn't you do a plea deal earlier? But the sentiment that I got from others was that, honestly, this is pretty standard timing, and that a month out, a plea deal isn't necessarily that unusual. And also noting here that from our sources and from the documents we've read through, it was the defense that reached out to the prosecution looking for a deal, Bryan.
So prosecutors like convictions, and the highest and best conviction is always the best result. And so early on in the trial, close to indictment, as the case goes along, as you move towards hearings, as you're doing motions, as you're doing more and more work, you're going to press upon the defense attorney and the defendant that this is the offer. This is the only offer you're going to get. But as you get to the 11th hour, and this has happened for every one of my cases that I go into trial, for some reason, a good deal somehow makes its way to the defendant. A deal that was never on the table, a deal that you were told you're never going to see the light of day of, you're never going to see the death penalty taken off the table. And so defense attorneys know this, and we kind of at the 11th hour to say, hey, what's up? You sure you want to do this trial? You sure you want to put this community and this family through all of the trauma? Maybe we can avoid this if you just give me this little thing that I'm asking for. And that's when you get those good deals. That's why the defense attorney reaches out. It's not because you don't believe in your case, you don't believe in your client, because you've lost emotion or whatever. We just know just before the trial, that's where you can get the real good stuff. That's what you can get your best offer possible. And if it's good enough for your client, then you take it and you avoid the trial. If not, then you know you did your job and you found the best possible outcome for your client, and the prosecutor's not offering anything better, and you move directly to trial.
I'm curious as to your thoughts here on how.
And just to be clear, the defense went to the prosecution and asked for a deal. Prosecution didn't go to Bryan Kohberger and say, hey, you want to make a deal with us? That's not what happened.
Bare bones this plea deal really was? Or do we not really know the details of it? Because again, some of the families are saying, look, maybe we could have supported a plea deal had we had some questions answered, had we had a videotaped confession, had we known why he did this, where the murder weapon was. So I'm just curious on your take.
So I get, and I understand, and I appreciate that the victims' family members are asking for more information. They want to know where the murder weapon is. They want to know why. Those aren't typical things that you get from a defendant when they plead guilty. There also is this idea of quid pro quo, right? Something for something. And so the prosecutor would have to think, in order to get a confession, I would have to give this person something. Like, they're not just going to volunteer this information. And so the first question becomes, well, why can't the offer be taking off the death penalty? Why can't that be the thing that they trade for giving the motive? I don't know. Is that a possibility? Yes. Does it often happen? No. Oftentimes, the avoidance of a trial is the reason why you avoid the harshest penalty, in this case, the death penalty. And for the prosecutors, they can only give the information of what they have. They don't have where the knife is. They don't have what the motive is. And so what you're asking then is, prosecutor, can you give Bryan Kohberger a better deal so that we can get this information? And then the answer or the follow-up question becomes, what are you willing to give this defendant in order to get that information? And I do not want to be insensitive. I would imagine that the greatest thing that you want to ensure is that a person who commits this crime never gets out again. And you don't want to give them the possibility of that for information that doesn't necessarily help in the way that you need to or want to be helped. So that's why I think that doesn't typically happen.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious about a couple of things here, though, as we move forward. Bryan Kohberger will be sentenced. That will be the end of the state's criminal case. But we know the Gonzalez family has been disappointed with the investigation and the prosecution. They are still looking for answers. Matt, do you see any civil suits coming down the pike here? There have been conversations surrounding a potential wrongful death suit. What do you anticipate, Matt?
Yeah, there are options. They might be able to sue. They may do that just to try to get documents and discovery in order to answer some of the questions that have not been answered. And I don't know if any of those would actually satisfy their search for what actually happened, because I doubt there's some document out there that tells us what Bryan Kohberger was actually thinking. But they may do that just in the pursuit. I mean, they seemed pretty angry about this plea. There's no such thing as closure for victims' families in a case like this. Changes their life forever. But I hope that at some point they're able to get some semblance of peace. And having been involved in some civil litigation as a lawyer, there's no peace when you're in a friggin' lawsuit like that. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. There's nothing that they can do that will ever bring their kids back and make their lives whole again. Bryan, I asked you before the change of plea if you thought that Bryan Kohberger might speak in that moment. And I think you said something along the lines of he could, but it doesn't have to. You thought perhaps you might advise him on a human level to speak at sentencing. What are the chances that you think that happens and that it happens in a meaningful way?
If you're going to attach "and in a meaningful way," then with that added sentence, I would say there's a 0% chance.
Because of the meaningful part.
In a meaningful way. Mm-hmm. I don't think that there's anything that can be meaningfully said that will give these families any kind of solace. I don't think he's going to get up there and explain, this is why I did it. This is how I felt. This is why I thought. I don't think you're going to get that. I think the answers in which the family want, need, and deserve are not going to come from the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system is very good at incarcerating bad people. It's very good at stopping potential threats of people who do some of the worst things in our society. It's not very good at making victims whole. Do I think he will talk, keeping out that meaningful part? At this point, I would say 50-50. He has no real motivation to talk. This isn't a victim impact statement where he could say anything that would make the judge think, you know what, I'll shave off 5 years. You know what, I'll make it that he gets to go to parole sooner than what the government or the prosecutor wants. There's none of that there. He could say something amazing that maybe he's better than me, and he can find words that can make people feel whole, even though you're the person who brutally murdered their loved ones. Maybe he has that ability. I don't know. I've never seen anyone do that yet. But even if he did, that wouldn't do anything for his case. And so that's why I say it's 50-50. I think he could come up there and just say, Your Honor, I did this. I apologize to the family. I'm ready to be sentenced.
Mm-hmm. So, Matt, in your experience, the word impact here, do these victim impact statements have just that, right? Do they have an actual impact on the convicted?
So victim impact statements they're an incredibly powerful moment for a lot of different reasons. It's the family's opportunity to voice their feelings and what this crime has done to them, with the defendant captivated. Essentially, he has to sit there and listen. So these are very dramatic, and it can be an incredibly cathartic thing for family members. But Bryan's right. It isn't going to have any real impact on what the judge does in this case. Oftentimes it doesn't. It's just good for the family. The big question then, of course, becomes, and it's called a statement in allocution. That's when the defendant addresses the court. And almost every state, when they do it, the defendant goes last. I hate that, to be honest with you, because it gives the defendant the last word. And Bryan Kohberger, there's nothing he's going to be able to say to make these people feel better. One of the things about people that commit murders like this is they tend to have a shocking lack of empathy for other people. So I don't think, if Kohberger apologizes to the family, I don't anticipate that it's going to do them much good. But this is going to be a high drama day or two in court as these poor families go through the impact that this had upon them. And my heart just breaks for them through this whole process. It's an awful thing. And I don't think there's, like Bryan said, we haven't figured out how to make the victims whole. And in a case like this, we never will.
Gentlemen, thank you as always for your insight and your analysis.
Happy to be here as always. Thank you.
My pleasure, Kenan. Thanks for having us.
After the break, I'll share conversations I've had with the victims' family members and friends. And then we'll bring on ABC News contributor Julie Scott to talk about what we might hear in the victim impact statements tomorrow and how the community of Moscow has reacted to Bryan Kohberger's guilty plea.
This episode is brought to you by Daily News Podcast Smart Choice.
That's Jim Chapin.
Rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
I miss him every single day. And I always will.
That's Jim Chapin, Ethan Chapin's father. I interviewed his whole family just about a week before it was announced that Bryan Kohberger was accepting this plea deal.
It drives me crazy because I've always wanted to protect my family. And there's really nothing there that I could have done.
Yeah.
I watch out for everybody in my family and make sure, everybody's good. And instantly he was taken. And I couldn't do a thing about it.
Like the Chapins, many loved ones have been forced to find a new normal, one that no longer includes Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, or Maddie. And at tomorrow's sentencing hearing, their family members and friends will have a chance to give victim impact statements. Some of the victims' families are split on how the case has developed. The Chapin and Mogan families are content with the plea deal. They've said Kohberger's guilty plea has given them closure and that they're ready to move on. But the Gonzalez and Kernodle families are furious. For them, negotiating a plea deal with Kohberger isn't justice. They wanted a full confession. On the Gonzalez family's official Facebook page, they posted, quote, Bryan Kohberger facing a life in prison means he would still get to speak, form relationships, and engage with the world. Meanwhile, our loved ones have been silenced forever. The emotional toll these murders have had on the victims' families and friends has also been exacerbated by the national media attention and online harassment some have received over the past couple of years.
I think looking back on that day specifically, I would just say that that's just the day that changed it all.
That's Emily Allant. She and her boyfriend, Hunter Johnson, were with the surviving roommates when they called 911 the morning after the murders. Hunter is actually heard on the call. We spoke to Emily and Hunter before Kohberger accepted the plea deal. We all thought the trial would move ahead in August, so they were hesitant in this moment to discuss details about that morning. They were worried that whatever they said could impact the trial, so they were careful to not violate the gag order. But we did talk about their friendship with Xana and Ethan. They were all best friends. Emily and Hunter say they still struggle with the shock and trauma of discovering their friends had been killed. My heart started beating really fast when they told me this.
I think it's just a pivotal moment in your life where, you see the world in pure innocence, and that all gets ripped away from you in one phone call and one, walk over. It's all very blurry. It doesn't, you don't remember everything, but it's a day of impact.
Yeah. I would say, just for me personally, I would say you don't ever know when you're really going to grow up. Like when's like I'm going to be an adult, I think that way where my childhood was left behind and adulthood had to enter in.
For Emily and Hunter, the grieving process has been complicated. True crime sleuths made it difficult to mourn their friends in peace, especially for Hunter. The internet falsely accused him of being involved in the murders. He was bombarded online with harassment.
Lots of threats.
Yeah.
People saying I should confess to murdering them or knowing things that I obviously had no clue about.
I think it's very important for people to take a seat back and recognize that what they say on their phone and what they say on social media is very hurtful to so many people, and it can be very impactful to some people's lives. And it was very impactful for our lives for a long time, and we didn't even get the worst of it. And so it breaks my heart to know that people say terrible things about Dylan and Bethany and everybody that was involved. I think that it is wrong to have a voice in those areas.
Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk lived with the victims on King Road. They were home the night of the murders. Internet sleuths criticized them for not calling 911 sooner, allowing Kohberger to get away. They were viciously targeted online. Emily and Hunter say that Dylan and Bethany are also victims in all of this. In fact, it seems like nearly everyone in Moscow felt the sting of unwanted attention at some point during that 6-week investigation. The community of Moscow was suddenly thrust into the national spotlight. Media outlets and true crime enthusiasts descended upon the small college town. So it's perhaps not a surprise that many residents were relieved to hear about Kohberger's plea. Without a trial, they'll be spared a second wave of media attention. And that's why I wanted to check in with our ABC News contributor, Julie Scott. She's based in Moscow. She used to teach journalism at the University of Idaho. So I wanted to speak with her about what she's hearing from residents now that Kohberger has pled guilty to the murders. I'm curious, Julie, I keep thinking about this sentiment. When Bryan Kohberger was arrested, there was this sentiment throughout Moscow of, I'm glad it wasn't one of us. I'm glad it was an outsider, someone they didn't know. Now that he has admitted to this, how is the community reacting?
Well, it's a tight-knit community. They're stunned, much like I was stunned, but it's split. So the community members that I talked to, one in particular is on the city council. It's been a long time journalist in Moscow in Latah County, and now, sits on the city council. And she said she was numb, that it took her about an hour to really process what had happened. She said there was such an emptiness, an empty feeling, and it all came rushing back to her. So that moment of the crime hit her again hard.
In talking with people in Moscow, though, Julie, is there a divide in how people feel in terms of wishing there had been a trial and hoping for a conviction out of a trial versus this plea deal?
So the folks that I talked to, and they seem to be the older crowd in Moscow, are happy that this plea deal happened because it's a guaranteed outcome. And maybe it's because they've had the experience of watching other trials, watching other folks that have gone through the system. that it's, a guaranteed outcome is a guaranteed outcome. We do not know what would have happened in a trial.
They just want it out of their town, in my opinion. They want to be done with it. They don't need the answers like the parents and the families are wanting.
Some people say that, there could have been a loophole. The DNA evidence could have been the sticking point. It could have been a mistrial. And so there was all that fear. Because this now is the outcome, we know he's going to be put away for life.
But there's the other side of people that wanted to go for the death penalty.
Right.
Which, again, in the state of Idaho now, with this new law, means firing squad. There are people that wanted that day. They were people that were confident that there would be justice served, confident in a conviction, but they also wanted the trial to play out, because I think there's a sense from some folks and some families that the true depravity of this crime is still unknown.
The students that I spoke to that are very close to this case are angry. They all are in agreement, wanted the trial to happen. They wanted the guilty verdict, the death penalty verdict. They wanted to know the motive, and they wanted to know all the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And they felt like that was the only solution. That's the only thing that, whether it would be satisfying or not, they wanted to make sure that he got the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of the students who I know very well, he was a former student of mine, said, it's an eye for an eye.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't matter, I think, to a lot of people that feel that way, if that process is drawn out for decades. It's the fact that justice prevailed.
And they felt that the only way that justice would prevail would be that firing squad, death penalty sentence. And they were adamant about it.
Wow.
The only thing, and this was a group of them that I spoke to, the only thing that they were worried about is the two roommates.
Yeah.
Having to testify and protecting their friends. They are now spared from that event.
Exactly. We knew that the two surviving roommates had been subpoenaed to testify. That would have been a big day in court, and it would have been really hard on those girls. And we will hear from the victims' families during sentencing, because on July 23rd, perhaps it goes into the 24th, Bryan Kohberger will be sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms in prison. And at that point, these victims' families will have the opportunity to make victim impact statements in the courtroom. What do you imagine of that day? I know it's going to be tremendously powerful, and I have a feeling that some of them might speak directly to Bryan Kohberger.
Well, we know, the most vocal has been Steve Gonsalves, and his emotion and his anger. I understand. I don't know how I'd feel if I were in his shoes. I have a son the same age. I would be angry for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Steve is going to have a chance to face him.
Mm-hmm. I think Steve and Christy, I think their eldest daughter, Olivia, I think there's going to be a lot of Gonsalves family members that take to that mic.
They've been at every single hearing.
Yeah.
They have been the most consistent attending because they felt like it was so important to them to be there, to follow everything, to make sure things were done correctly.
It was a responsibility for them.
It's their responsibility.
Julie, just last week, the judge in this case lifted the gag order, but left the documents related to the case under seal. So as of this recording, we don't know when or if that seal will be lifted, but we are expecting that at some point we'll get a lot more information about the investigation of Bryan Kohberger and the evidence the state of Idaho had against him. So, Julie, what are some of the things that you have an eye out for?
I think first and foremost is we know that there was, no real connection with the victims, but what does that mean? Was there any connection between Bryan Kohberger and Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan? There was some talk about Bryan Kohberger frequenting a restaurant that Maddie worked at, the Mad Greek.
Mm-hmm.
What do they have on that? Is there anything there?
Yeah.
What was his habits? What was he doing in Moscow? What were his patterns? His cell phone data? What did that reveal? And I think those are the answers that people want to know. What was the connection? And what if we don't have a motive? What if there is no motive?
I also have a lot of questions of my own. I don't know that law enforcement can answer the question of where the murder weapon is, but where do they think it is? And I want to know what they think Bryan Kohberger was wearing that night. And what was he carrying as he was leaving the house? It's been described as a vacuum, as something that a firefighter would have, as a container. What was it? And how did he manage to keep the evidence so contained in what was a gruesome stabbing murder scene? How did he do that?
Listen, I've talked to people that are in forensics. I've talked to people in law enforcement that have done horrific crimes. And they said it's almost impossible not to leave hairs, fibers,
sweat, saliva.
Yeah, saliva around the crime scene. A crime scene like that. And the kill kit. Did he have a kill kit? Did he have where did it go? We know that he went, south out of Moscow towards the Snake River. He's very close to the Snake River. Did he throw the weapon in the Snake River?
And Julie, had he not left this knife sheath behind, would law enforcement have ever found him?
I don't think so. Because of the surveillance video, all we had was a white car, basically. The license plate was in question. There were times that they couldn't see the license plate. There were times on the surveillance that the front license plate was missing. But that's all you would be surveillance footage. I also want to know, when he was arrested in Pennsylvania in his home, he was continually cleaning. So he had gloves on. Mm-hmm. He was obsessed with cleaning his vehicle. So he continued to clean. What were those patterns like? What did they find in the trash? What did they find in his room?
Is the community of Moscow feeling like once he's sentenced, he has no ability to appeal? So for them, is it over?
I think this community will always remember Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, and they will do their darndest to make sure that their memories are always a part of the University of Idaho. You have the Healing Garden. They never want to forget those victims. They want to put behind them the media attention that came upon the city of Moscow, which was tremendous. YouTubers, internet sleuth, people pointing fingers and making accusations and connecting the dots and really making Moscow kind of a circus for this horrific crime. So this community wants to get back to being the community of Moscow. The one question that comes up, whether you're in the camp of, I agree with this plea deal or I do not agree with this plea deal, they want to know why. I think the community, I think students, friends, family want that why so desperately. And they want it from him. Tell us why you did this. Why were they your victims?
I'll be at the sentencing hearing tomorrow, July 23rd. I'll be covering what happens and report back. So keep an eye on this feed for our next episode.
Okay, so we're going to go right into the next episode, actually. here in just a second when I get there, get there to it. But this one's a little bit shorter than the first one. This one is called Facing the Murderer. And it says, on Wednesday, Bryan Kohberger was officially sentenced to life in prison for the brutal murders of Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan. His hearing was a chance for their families and friends to deliver victim impact statements and confront Kohberger directly. They didn't hold anything back. And Kana Whitworth was in the court that day too. So I'm excited to kind of hear what she has to say about how, Kohberger acted in court. We know that we've heard anyway, that when he walked in, he, maybe mouthed to his mom, like, I love you, or he either looked at her and smiled, like he did something there. And then on his way back in, I think after he was leaving court, he mouthed something else to her. So let's see what she has to say. And thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it. If you guys don't mind, just hit the like button and we'll go ahead and we'll get on to the next episode. And this should be the last episode of the series, unless they decide to come out with, I guess, another episode. But I think this is the finale.
They called the convicted killer a psychopath, a sociopath, evil. They told him to burn in hell. Most refused to say his name. And they talked about their missing loved ones, shared little details, even funny stories. They said they're stronger than ever, that they are united by what happened. A couple of them even offered the killer forgiveness. Wednesday was Bryan Kohberger's sentencing, and this is some of what we heard from the families and friends of the 4 University of Idaho students he killed. The loved ones of Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. This was their day to speak, to try and put into words how their deaths impacted them, to address Kohberger directly and tell him exactly what he's taken from them, and to do it face to face. They flew in from all across the country. I was there too. And for nearly 3 hours, the words spilled out of them as Kohberger sat, wrists cuffed to a metal chain around his waist, seemingly without emotion. By midday, he was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences, 1 for each murder charge, plus 10 years for the burglary charge. He won't have the possibility of parole and has waived his right to appeal. That part went the way we expected it to. But I wasn't sure what to expect from the victim impact statements. A lawyer I know described this part of the process as a legal funeral. And in the end, that felt about right. We'll walk you through what was said on this highly emotional day, what we learned, who spoke, and who didn't. I'm ABC News correspondent Kana Whitworth, and this is the King Road Killings. Today, Facing the Murderer. The courtroom in Boise was packed with the victims' families, friends, media, spectators, and law enforcement. People started lining up the night before so they could get a seat inside. Members of the Gonzalez, Mogen, and Kernodle families were all present. Ethan Chapin's family decided not to attend. Kohberger entered the courtroom wearing an orange prison jumpsuit and handcuffs secured to a chain around his waist. He calmly greeted his lawyers and his family. Only his mother and sister were present. Victim impact statements were read in the order of the charges listed on the indictment, starting with burglary. There were 6 University of Idaho victims that night, 4 who died and 2 who have to live with the terror of that night. Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen, the surviving roommates, shared how their lives have changed since their roommates were killed. Bethany chose to have her statement read by a friend. So Emily Allant stepped to the podium.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Xana was one of Emily's best friends too, and she was at the King Road house the morning after the murders. Here's Emily reading Bethany's words.
I was roommates with Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. I not only lost some of my best friends, but I also lost a sister. Never in a million years would I have thought that something like this would have happened to my closest friends.
Bethany and Dylan faced a storm of criticism for not immediately calling authorities. Bethany described what happened that morning.
When I first woke up that morning, I had no idea what happened. I woke up around 7 with a terrible toothache. So I called my dad, who is a dentist, and he asked what I should do. He told me to take Advil, so I did, and I went back to sleep. I was still out of it and still didn't know what happened.
Bethany said she will always regret not calling the police sooner.
Even though I understand it wouldn't have changed anything, not even if the paramedics had been right outside the door. I was so frantic that morning and scared to death, not knowing what had happened. And when I made the 911 call, I couldn't even get out the words. And from then on, I don't remember a thing. It was like my brain wiped that whole memory. That was the worst day of my life. And I know it always will be.
And it was made worse by the intense scrutiny she faced online after the murders. People blamed Bethany and Dylan for letting Kohberger get away. Emily's voice was shaking as she read Bethany's words.
While I was still in shock, trying to process the fact that my friends were truly gone, I had been attacked by the public. I was grieving, numb, and unsure of what had happened was even real. And at the same time, I was getting flooded with death threats and hateful messages from people who did not know me at all or know the dynamic of our friendship. Social media made it so much worse, and strangers made up stories to entertain themselves. The media harassed not just me, but also my family. People showed up at our house. They called my phone, my parents' phones, other family members' phones, and we were chased while I was still trying to survive emotionally and grieve the loss of my friends.
Bethany said after the murders, she was terrified. She slept in her parents' room for almost a year. She hasn't had a good night's rest since that day, and the fear will never leave her. She continues to live with constant anxiety that someone will hurt her or anyone else she loves. Dylan Mortensen, the other surviving roommate, moved to the front to give her statement. She was sobbing, at times almost hyperventilating, but she was brave. It's the first time that we've heard from her. Remember, Dylan was the roommate who saw Kohberger in the house the night of the murders. She tried to control her heaving sobs so she could speak.
Dylan, just take your time, all right?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Instead of standing at the podium, Dylan took a seat next to the prosecution to deliver her statement.
What happened that night changed everything. Because of him, 4 beautiful, genuine, compassionate people were taken from this world for no reason.
Dylan shook as she read her statement. Like Bethany, she said she's also haunted by what happened that night and is dealing with severe anxiety.
And then there are the panic attacks. The kind that slam into me like a tsunami out of nowhere. I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't stop shaking. All I can do is scream
because the emotional pain and the grief is too much to handle. My chest feels like it's caving in. Sometimes I drop to the floor with my heart racing, convinced something is very wrong. It's far beyond anxiety. It's my body reliving everything over and over again. My nervous system never got the message that it is over, and it won't let me forget what he did to them.
At this point, I could hear sniffles in the audience. Members of the prosecution were quietly wiping away tears. But all throughout, Kohberger's expression was unchanged. He maintained a straight face and never looked away. Dylan ended her statement by talking about him.
He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. A body without empathy, without remorse. He chose destruction. He chose evil. He feels nothing. He tried to take everything from me. My friends, my safety, my identity, my future. He took their lives, but I will continue trying to be like them to make them proud.
Next, we heard from Maddie's family, including Scott Laramie, her stepfather. Maddie's mother, Karen Laramie, stood next to him with her arm around his waist. She was looking down, fighting back tears as Scott spoke.
All parents dream of their children accomplishing more than them. We realized this dream. All we had not become, she was becoming. Karen and I are ordinary people, but we lived extraordinary lives because we had Maddie. Maddie was taken senselessly and brutally in a sudden act of evil. She was taken along with the young, promising, and bright lives of Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan.
Maddie's grandmother, Kim Cheeley, shared a sweet story about how her granddaughter gave her the nickname Deedle. She wore an engraved necklace that Maddie had given her that said, Deedle and Maddie.
I added an angel wing, and it's one of my treasured possessions. I also got an angel wing tattoo. Never thought I'd see the day, but along with many members of our family, replicating the one that Maddie and her sorority sisters had, I wanted mine where I could see and touch it often.
The Mogan family, they're still devastated. They're still grieving Maddie's loss. But they're also ready to move on and said Kohberger's guilty plea is the first step in that process. They support this plea deal. The Gonzalez family does not, and they've been outspoken about their anger over the plea. And that anger was a big theme in their statements. Steve Gonzalez, Kaylee's father, approached the podium and actually moved it so that he directly faced Kohberger instead of the judge, and he wasted no time scolding Kohberger.
Today, we are here to finish what you started. Today, you've lost control. Today, we are here to prove to the world that you picked the wrong families. You tried to break our community apart. You tried to plant fear. You tried to divide us. You failed. Instead, your actions have united everyone in their disgust for you.
He called him stupid, careless, a complete joke.
The world's watching because of the kids, not because of you. Nobody cares about you. You're not worth the time, the effort to be remembered. In time, you will be nothing but two initials forgotten to the wind. No visitors, nothing more than initials on an otherwise unmarked tombstone.
And then it was Olivia's turn, Kaylee's older sister. She took to the stand and spoke with an equal amount of fiery rage, yet she maintained her composure while holding nothing back.
I won't stand here and give you what you want. I won't offer you tears. I won't offer you trembling. Disappointments like you thrive on pain, on fear, and on the illusion of power. And I won't feed your beast. Instead, I will call you what you are: sociopath, psychopath, murderer.
She said she refused to give Kohberger the satisfaction of their tragedy. Her voice got louder as she read her statement. She and Kohberger were making direct eye contact. He never looked away once as she was disparaging him and demanding answers.
I will ask the questions that reverberate violently in my own head, so loudly that I can't think straight most any day. Some of these might be familiar, so sit up straight when I talk to you. How was your life right before you murdered my sisters? Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your apartment? Why did you choose my sisters? Where is the murder weapon? The clothes you wore that night? What did you bring into the house with you? What was the second weapon you used on Kaylee? What were Kaylee's last words?
Never once did anyone from the Gonzalez family say Bryan Kohberger's name.
The truth is, they're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty. Let me be very clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered just because someone finally said your name out loud.
If the Gonzalez family lashed out in unified anger at Kohberger, Xana Kernodle's family offered a sweeping range of reactions, from forgiveness and an invitation to talk, to her stepfather's wish to take him out to the woods, alone. Xana's father, Jeff, described the pain of hearing a young child call out for her father on the airplane as he was flying in for the hearing, and how it reminded him of Xana. He talked about how his younger daughter had checked in on him and his regret that he hadn't been there to protect her that night. Jeff Kernodle said he thought about driving over that night. He was just 7 miles away. But Xana had told him not to drink and drive. Xana's mother, Karen, talked about how Jesus has allowed her to forgive Kohberger, so she was washing her hands of the man who killed her daughter. Kohberger, she said, didn't deserve to hear about the good memories of their daughter. Xana's aunt, Kim, also talked about forgiveness because she said she saw how anger and hate could destroy people.
But how I look at it now is this tragedy, this horrible tragedy on all of the 4 children, has brought us closer. You united us with your actions. We're united now, and we're stronger than ever. We have family and friends now that we never knew we had. And, this is probably going to bother everybody, but Bryan, I'm here today to tell you I have forgiven you, because I no longer could live with that hate in my heart. And for me to become a better person, I have forgiven you. And anytime you want to talk and tell me what happened, get my number. I'm here. No judgment. Because I do have answers or questions that I want you to answer. And I'm here. I'll be that one that'll listen to you. Okay?
Xana's stepfather, Randy Davis, took to the podium and described Xana as funny. He made a point to turn his body and speak only to the other family members of the victims, to share a story about how Xana and her sister had once put their little brother in a dress and makeup. He said now she's an angel. Then he turned his body, pointed, and stared directly at Kohberger.
I want to just be out in the woods with you just so I can teach you about loss and pain. I love God. I wouldn't take your life. That's up to him. But I guarantee you, you are weak. God, I would just give a moment, man, 5 minutes out in the woods. Oh, man. Ooh. You're going to go to hell. I know people believe in other stuff. You're evil. There's no place for you in heaven. You took our children. You are going to suffer, man. I'm shaking because I want to reach out to you, but I hope you feel my energy, okay? Go to hell.
Ethan Chapin's family didn't have anyone speak on their behalf and weren't present for the hearing. But we knew they wouldn't be. All told, the roommates and family members took about an hour and a half to express their grief, loss, memories, anger, and thirst for retribution. Through it all, Kohberger sat still, his face not reacting. Sometimes I saw him clenching his jaw or blinking. And then he was offered his chance to speak. We have more after the break.
Hey everybody, it's how ads on.
Victims' families were.
It is time for the judicial system.
After the victim impact statements, State Prosecutor Bill Thompson addressed the court. He stood at the podium and opened a manila folder.
So now, it is time for the judicial system to impose final judgment and close the door on this chapter of these tragedies.
He acknowledged that some of the victims' families were unhappy that Kohberger had been allowed to take a plea.
I recognize and acknowledge personally, and I respect the fact that of these fine, suffering people here, not everybody agreed with the decision we make. I accept that. It's my responsibility in the end. I recognize that that's the duty of the office that I hold.
He ticked through each of the 5 counts that Kohberger has pled guilty to. He showed photographs of the victims one by one.
That on count 1, the felony burglary, the court sentenced the defendant to the maximum period of 10 years fixed in the custody of the Idaho Department of Correction. Then on count 2, that the court sentenced the defendant to fixed life for the murder of Maddie Mogan.
Thompson seemed to get choked up here. He continued to list all of the murder counts and asked the court to enforce each life sentence consecutively, back to back, not at the same time.
To recognize and respect the unique individuality of each of these beautiful young people whose lives were taken brutally and for no reason.
Thompson then displayed another photo. It was that iconic image of Maddie on Kaylee's shoulders, Xana and Ethan, along with their roommates Dylan and Bethany. It was taken on a porch.
This is the picture taken on November 12th, 2022, of the special family of 1122 King Road. And you can see all 6 of these dynamic, vibrant, loving, special, innocent faces taken together just across the street from their residence. And barely 12 hours before 4 of them would be brutally murdered in their sleep. They've been described consistently as being bright, caring, vivacious, with futures we can only imagine now.
Thompson said it was time for everyone to move forward. Today's proceedings and all the testimony we heard were one step in that process. And it's been a long road getting to this moment where Bryan Kohberger would be sentenced and held accountable for his crimes.
I have one last thought. After Your Honor imposes judgment and sentences the defendant to spend the rest of his life in prison, in other words, sentence the defendant to die in prison, he's going to stand up in the belly chains and leg irons that he's wearing today, and he's going to be escorted into the custody of the Idaho Department of Correction. And the door will close behind him forever. That is the closure that we seek, that all of these people, these loving friends and family deserve, so that we can move forward. Thank you, Your Honor.
And then it was the moment we'd all been wondering about. The moment where the judge turned to Bryan Kohberger and asked if he had anything he wanted to say. You could feel the tension in the courtroom. It was like everyone was holding their breath.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
I watched him lean closer to the mic, but still, it was a little hard to hear him when he said, "I respectfully decline." I heard someone on the family side of the gallery say, "Surprise, surprise." There was a pause, and then it sounded like someone muttered, "Coward." Judge Hippler gently reprimanded the courtroom by saying, "Please." Then he read from prepared remarks. He spoke as an officer of the court, but also as a parent. And he reiterated the word, coward.
During the quiet morning hours of November 13, 2022, a faceless coward breached the tranquility of 6 beautiful young people and senselessly slaughtered them, 4 of them. Who committed this unspeakable evil was unknown for several weeks, but due to the killer's incompetence and outstanding police work by numerous local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, the person that slithered through that sliding glass door at 1122 King Road now stands before the world and this court unmasked. This unfathomable and senseless act of evil has caused immeasurable pain and loss. No parent should ever have to bury their child. This is the greatest tragedy that can be inflicted upon a person. Parents who took their children to college in a truck filled with moving boxes had to bring them home in hearses lined with coffins. The loss this killer inflicted was not just the death of these people's children, siblings, grandchildren, as we've heard today. It has ripped a hole in their soul, destroying a special part of their very essence. Any person who is a parent defines themselves foremost as such. It is their existence and purpose of being. And it has been stolen from these parents.
Judge Hippler spoke about one of the big unanswered questions in this case, the why of it all. And what was Bryan Kohberger's motive for these crimes?
As we sit here today, this case is ending, and we are now certain who committed these unspeakable acts of evil. But we don't know, and what we may never know, is why. I share the desire expressed by others to understand the why.
Even President Donald Trump has weighed in on Kohberger's plea in recent days and said the judge should compel Kohberger to give a reason for the killings. But the judge tried to steer people away from fixating on the why.
It seems to me and this is just my own opinion, that by continuing to focus on why, we continue to give Mr. Kohberger relevance. We give him agency and we give him power. The need to know what is inherently not understandable makes us dependent upon the defendant to provide us with a reason, and that gives him the spotlight, the attention, and the power he appears to crave. Yet even if I could force him to speak, which legally I cannot, how could anyone ever be assured that what he speaks is the truth? Do we really believe, after all of this, he's capable of speaking the truth or of giving up something of himself to help the very people whose lives he destroyed?
There's no conceivable reason for these crimes, Judge Hippler said. No rational explanation. So we shouldn't be grasping for one.
And in the end, the more we struggle to seek explanation for the unexplainable, the more we try to extract a reason, the more power and control we give to him. In my view, the time has now come to end Mr. Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame. It's time that he be consigned to the ignominy and isolation of perpetual incarceration.
And with that, the judge moved on to formally sentence Kohberger to 4 consecutive life sentences plus 10 years for burglary, as well as fines. Those fines include $50,000 for each of the 5 counts, plus a $5,000 civil penalty for each of the murder victims' families.
Again, thank you to everyone for your stories today. I am strengthened by them, and I am encouraged by your humanity and strength. God bless you. We're adjourned.
After 2.5 hours, it was over. Kohberger tried to talk to his mom before being led out of the courtroom. So many people stopped to hug the victims' family members. It actually created a bit of a traffic jam to leave the courtroom. Now that the legal part of this case is over, we're expecting to get more access to information about their investigation. The court will start a review of the sealed documents surrounding the case and release them at its discretion. And just a few hours after the hearing ended, the Moscow Police Department released some 300 documents detailing their investigation, including gruesome, graphic descriptions of exactly how Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan had been murdered. But the judge had warned us not to expect an explanation for the unexplainable. And law enforcement told us today they don't have a motive. They never found a connection between Kohberger and any of the 4 victims or 2 surviving roommates. And as hard as they looked, they won't be able to offer us a why. The judge also said that it's up to the families to carry forward memories of their loved ones. He called the victims perpetually young people, these forever children. He said these survivors carry the responsibility of ensuring that the voices of these children, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, are never forgotten. And I might add that it's our job now, too, to remember their light and their lives and carry that forward. The King Road killings is
Okay. Take that down and I can remove this and make me bigger. Oh no, my screen looks weird there, but that's okay. I did want to say before we get off here that there is a man that's claiming to be Austin Drummond's father. I guess he contacted WBBJ Monday afternoon and he wrote a letter. And yeah. So last night, basically, if you guys are following the case, and I'll probably make a video on this after we get off here too. So make sure you guys go and watch that video because I'll need the views. But let me show you this here. So apparently quadruple murder suspect last night was cited in Jackson and he has like a weapon in his hand, I guess. I didn't watch the video because you Ashley just told me in the chat about it, and I looked it up, but the podcast was going, so I didn't want to listen to it while we were watching the podcast. That would have been rude. But let's watch the video together. See what he does. So there he is. Little son of a bitch. Looks like he's holding a big gun. But what kind? Wait, hold on a second. Is that? I gotta move this up a little bit. I couldn't really see because my search bar was in the way. Is he trying to get in somewhere, or is he just hiding there? Oh, maybe just hiding there. Yeah, that is a long gun. That's like an assault rifle. So it looked like he was trying to get into that apartment. Hold on a second. Get back here, bro. It looks like he has his sleeve up too. I don't know for sure, but it looked like almost like he had his sleeve up. So he doesn't touch the door. Good thing they locked it. We'll watch it again. So there he is. What was he doing right before that? Looks like he did a hand signal. Look at this car out here. Is this a car? Okay. Do you guys see you see the grill? Look at the grill, right? Back here is a car. I don't know if you can see my cursor. So if I go on it, do you see this vehicle or something back here? I swear he does like this or he does something. I'm going to rewind it and have you guys look. That's what you thought too, Felicia? Yeah, because I'm all about the gang life now, you know. I'm all about the gang life. I'm just trying to figure it out. But it looks like, watch him. See? He did something. He did something. He did something, in my opinion, in my humblest opinions. He definitely, I don't know I don't know what he did though. I wish I could figure out the hand signal he did, because then I could look that up. It's so fast. But he's looking that way the whole time pretty much. That's the best I can get it, but that's not very clear. And when's this 23:20? What's that military time? 11:20 p.m. So let's keep our eye over there. So then he's standing here for 3, 4, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 7, maybe 8, 9. So 9 or 10 seconds he's standing there. Does he do anything else? I can't see what his hands are doing right there. But then he took off his hat or whatever he had on. Didn't he have on a hat here? Or a hood? Yeah, he had on a hat, so he took it down. I wonder why he stood there so long. And then he goes to this apartment. I'm not sure where this is at, but he takes his hood down. But it definitely looks like he's trying to use his sleeve kind of for his hand. And then he just walks off into the sunset. He did shave. It's something. It could be prison alphabet. I don't know. There is a car back there, right? Okay. Okay. He signaled to someone. Okay. Okay. Because I'm like, I'm not losing it, am I? That is pretty creepy. And then we do have this little letter. Also, it says, there are no words for the level of sadness we feel for 4 young lives that were taken. The thought that our son could be responsible for such a tragedy is devastating. We urge Austin to turn himself in and end the panic and misery so many are feeling. The Drummond family. Now, I mean, there's no like saying like this is from the father, but that's what it said. So, yeah, that definitely is like white or silver. Yeah. Or even maybe like even a blue. I don't know. I could ask Vincent. He's good with camera stuff. I mean, he's really good at that stuff. Because this almost, so is this the church? Or is this the apartments that was at? Because maybe that was a church door, not an apartment door. But because that church was huge, remember? That they thought they saw him near. So, this is weird. It looks like there's even a house or something back there. That's even more weird. Like creepy, you know what I mean? Like he's that close to people with a freaking assault rifle. Austin Drummond, yeah. You're welcome. Yeah, so I mean, father, I guess, is saying, that they're devastated and turn yourself in, bro. They've arrested 4 people now, but not him. He's like a magician. He's like Houdini. He's just gone. Like it seems like he's getting these people to help him, and then as soon as they help him, like they get caught, and then he's like off in the wind. It's just kind of crazy. Oh, I didn't notice that. They do look like they are. They do look wet. Or they're like 2 different styles, like on one pair of pants. But something does look back over there. I wish this part wasn't so, I wish this was better footage. But he definitely does something with his hand. And his pants they do look wet. I thought his shoes even look kind of funny. Like they're tennis shoes. Like dude is rolling around and these look like some, like, I'm not making fun of them, but like they don't even look like they're like a brand name. So his feet are probably killing him. If he's like out in the woods, he's not going to last long. Right? I mean, he's already out of the woods if he was in the woods, prior to this. He's already like, I'm out. But he does look like he might have been in the woods sitting in some freaking water. And I wonder if you put like, I know it's going to sound gross, but if you were to use like deer urine, you know how you can buy like deer urine and you can put it on yourself to smell like the deer when you go there in the woods to hunt. Would that deter like a blood, like a dog, like a trained dog? Would that deter their smell from going towards the deer also, like the urine? Yeah, right. Yeah, actually keep your feet dry. Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, yeah, he is not rocking the right pair of footwear. Right there alone, he's done. Like if he had on some good boots, he could even be wearing shorts probably and be okay. Like, I mean, not really, but in reality, normally you need good footwear. Yeah, I don't know, but that's a good question, isn't it? Might have to ask my brother. I don't know if he would know, but he uses deer urine. I'm pretty sure he goes hunting. They smell the deer and your scent too. Okay, because they're like just. So Austin Drummond, you haven't been here, Tom. I thought that it was because we were covering another case. I was like, Tom's out. Austin Drummond. Okay, so it gets complicated, but I'm going to give you the non-complicated version, and then we're going to go over it again on a live. But Austin is wanted for 4 deaths. There was a baby that was found in a yard of somebody. 45 minutes away, they find 4 dead bodies. It ends up being the parents of the baby that they found, a 7-month-old baby in the car seat. Ends up being her mom, dad, her uncle, and her grandmother. So this guy's wanted in connection with their murders, but he's from prison life. He used to date the grandmother that he killed, her sister. So the grandmother's 38. So he's on the run. This is the first time we've seen him on video that we've actually, the police may have video, but we haven't seen any. And he's has his gang associates. He's from the Vice Lords. They're all helping him. So there's been 4 arrests. 1 woman, 3 men have all been arrested different times for helping accessory after the fact, and one's charged with tampering with evidence. I'm not sure what he did. It's crazy. This is a crazy case. Like I have a chart for like the family and who's the suspects, who's the family, who's just, the people that we need to know about. So this is in Tiptonville, started in Tennessee. So it's kind of like all over. Jackson, Tennessee is where it's kind of happening now. 90 miles from Memphis. Thank you. And she's pregnant. Yeah. And the girlfriend that was the grandmother's sister was a corrections officer when he was in prison. It's a big thing. We might need to go. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, dang, this is really complicated, but we might have to go back over this again. Maybe I won't do the video and we'll just go over it tomorrow. Maybe I'll do both. Most of you guys are in here, so I think that you guys would, I don't really have to put the video out. Let's see if there's anything. Oh, there was another case. Y'all. Okay. So remember the Kansas Chiefs fans murders? Well, unaliving. I don't want to say unalivings because that doesn't sound. I don't want to say murders because we don't know. They died. Okay, so what they died. There's 3 guys that died, and there was 4 or 5 guys. They were all watching Kansas City's Chiefs play. And 3 of the guys went outside. 2 days later, they're found, and they're all out in the snow dead. 3 of them. Well, I think we all know the story, but come to find out that what killed them was a mixture of like cocaine, fentanyl, and weed or something. I don't think the weed really had anything to do with it, but well, they ended up charging 2 guys with the arrest, and it was it was Jordan Willis and Carson's the name of the guy's last name, Ivory Carson. So Jordan Willis and Ivory Carson. So they charged them. Well, they just upped, I guess, the charges, and they're going to court right now, but it's not airing. So I'll have to get the info for you guys. But it says that initially in March, they filed charges, including distribution of a controlled substance and 3 counts of manslaughter. Well, now there's a 4-page amended complaint, and they said that USA said that they obtained it. So it must cost money for some reason because they're not like releasing the paper. Like sometimes they won't release documents if they cost money. So I will put a FOIA in tomorrow. But it says, according to the 4-page amended complaint obtained by USA Today, Willis and Carson now face 3 counts of felony murder in the 2nd degree. That's punishable by no less than 10 to 30 years in prison or life imprisonment. And I guess I heard that Ivory Carson, his fingerprints was on the drugs. Like they found them. He found the police found Ivory Carson's fingerprints on the bag that was in Jordan Willis's house that had the fentanyl and the cocaine on it. So I wanted to give you an update in that case. I'm going to keep I want to do a live over that whole case too again and dig more into it because I know there's more, but it's crazy. Yeah, it says, yep, that's what they died from. Toxic offense from fentanyl and cocaine. So people got to stop selling the shit, right? I mean, yeah, he was arrested, but I thought that like it was kind of just going to be like scooted under the rug a little, but they amended the charges and they're like, heck no, we are charging you with like murder. Wow. They went from controlled substance and manslaughter to now facing 3 counts of felony murder in the 2nd degree. That'll wreck your whole life, you know what I mean? The Kansas moms, there was last time I heard anything, what's his name? Beersley's his last name. Stephen Beersley, the guy that Tad McCollum had rented the land from, that he had buried the bodies on his land, he died. And so when he died, they have like him on camera, I guess, giving his testimony, so they can do like a deathbed kind of deal or whatever it's called. But I don't know. So no, they're both charged now, and yeah, I think it's going to court. I'll have to look to see because I thought I saw it where it said Nancy Grace did an episode on it too, so we just watched hers. Did she put it on YouTube? Because that's what made me think of it today. I was like, oh, no way. Like, you know. And did you guys know that Liam Neeson, this could be like something that I just don't know. Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson are dating? Did anyone know that? You know, I mean, you just never know who you're going to fall in love with. Let's see if Nancy put it on her page. I just saw a picture of her. It made me think of that. It just went on there an hour ago. Wait, no, never mind. 4 hours ago. Wait, no, it didn't. That's Devil's Den Killer. What's she doing? Did you not put it on here? She didn't. Well, no wonders why y'all don't know about it. Maybe she's going to put it on there tomorrow. But she put it on her podcast, so we could always listen to it. Pamela Anderson is dating Liam Neeson. If I'm saying his name right. From like the Taken movies. That, you know, I'm gonna come and get my daughter back, that guy. Yeah, the guy that's like always the hero in all the movies he plays in. He's always a badass. I think they're cute together. I love that she's aging naturally. I love that she's not wearing makeup. I love it all. I love it all for her. I do. I think she looks beautiful, and I love her confidence. Yes, she did. Oh, yes, she did, Ashley. Oh, yeah. I remember my parents talking about that when I was a kid. I was like too young when that happened. I think it happened in like the 90s, but I definitely remember. It. She also used to wear thongs in her hair as hair ties. If she ever forgot a hair tie, she always had a pair of thongs, she said, in her bag. What a lady. What a lady. But no, I do like Pam Anderson. She put up with a lot. You know what I mean? I think she really did. And I think it's her time to shine. And she still looks so beautiful. She does. Her skin's like perfect. I know that my niece that passed away, she had a cameo in the Baywatch movie, and she got to meet like The Rock and stuff. And I remember her doing that, and she was so excited about it. I remember that. I loved that for her, because I know that was like one of her favorite days, like of being alive, was, you know, being able to be an extra in that movie. So thank you. Yes, get to the docking point. I hope so too. I know there's some more documents that I could, you know, some more stuff that we can go into that case. I need to look it up. I need to talk to Carrie Moody. She knows, she's got the deets. She's been going to court and stuff, so she is in her Marilyn Monroe era, and I feel like we all should be in our Marilyn Monroe era. She knew she was beautiful. I mean, you know, she knew she was beautiful, and she didn't need to be told. Oh my gosh, trying to pee on the neighbor's cat. I love that. I love that for you, Wicked. Gotta go get Grandpa. Oh man. Well, thank you guys for being here tonight. I'm going to jump off here. we're almost like 2 hours and 20 minutes in. I got a pizza is Marilyn Monroe here. I got to go to the doctor, like I said, tomorrow early. It's just right here, literally. I'm going to walk over there. Vincent's like, you're going to walk? I'm like, yeah, it's like right there. Why even get in the car? Like, it's a 2-minute walk. It's like right through that wall, pretty much. I mean, not really, but But thank you guys again for being here tonight. I appreciate it. Thanks for putting in your input and all of that. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. We're trying to hit, was it 22,000? I think 22,000 subscribers. We're really close. And I say it every time, but I may take a break if we hit that 22,000. I know, I always say that every time, and then I never do. But thank you guys for being here. I'll be back tomorrow to hang out with you guys. I'll be actually on my other channel. I think I scheduled it for like 2:35 maybe. I may come on earlier, but I'm just going to do a live over just like, I doubt the guys would want to come, but it's over like makeup, and I'm going to open up this Ipsy bag that I didn't open up and use the products that are in there and see if they're any good. And chit chat with you guys. So that's all I'm going to do. But if you guys want to come over there and hang out, we'd love to have you. So I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening. Bye, guys.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out.